Hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is the Roaming Prepper channel. I'm your host, Pete, and I want to thank you again for joining me for the weekly situation report. For those of you who are just coming back to the channel or maybe new, this is a weekly report where I go through a compilation of public release, government, corporate, and other information relevant to activities around the world. Basically, as a summary to give you an idea of what the world is doing, and you may find something in there that is informative to you and gives you some sense of direction when it comes to preparedness. I normally do these Mondays. They used to be my Saturday sit rep. My schedule is such that Monday afternoon is pretty much when I'm doing them now. But in any case, I appreciate all of you joining me tonight, and I'm going to get right to it. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with the format, I typically go by regions of the earth: Asia, Africa, Eastern, Middle East, Europe, etc. And then via in each section, I go through the countries, all of them in alphabetical order. So let's get started for today. I'm starting with Africa, the Congo. Malaria cited as a cause of death and infections in Equateur province. False alarm. Dozens of deaths and hundreds of cases, which sparked panics in Congo's Equator province. Sorry, have been attributed to malaria. They originally said it was a mystery disease and they didn't know what it was. They're now saying it's malaria. Now, I find that a little bit sus because malaria has been around forever. We've known what it does, so why the medical personnel in that country who deal with it on a regular basis would think it was something else? The only thing I could think of, purely conjecture on my part, is maybe they thought whatever they were seeing didn't have the same, how shall I say, symptoms. It didn't present the same way. And then that goes to the question of, well, what did it look like? And are they hiding something? Maybe, maybe not. But yeah, they're saying now it was malaria with the African mystery deaths. Anyway, that was from Africa News. Moving on to Ethiopia and Somalia. They hold talks aimed at reaffirming ties. Ethiopia's prime minister was welcomed by the Somali capital Mogadishu on Thursday by President Hassan Mohamud for talks aimed at reaffirming their ties. Always good news when countries try to get aligned and be peaceful with each other, especially when they live next door to each other. But surprisingly, that's it for Africa this week. Moving on to East Asia. Oh, sorry. Yes, East Asia and the Pacific. In Australia, a tropical cyclone forecast to make landfall on Australia's northeast coast soon. Keep in mind, those of you wondering, a cyclone is technically a hurricane in the Pacific. That's pretty much all it is. For those of you wondering, well, why is it happening so early in the year? Remember, south of the equator, they're having summer right now. We are having winter technically in the northern regions in the hemisphere. So uh, people get confused where they're like, hey, what are you wearing for Christmas? And your friend in Argentina goes, I'm wearing shorts and a t-shirt. And people were wondering, yeah, so just in case you forgot. Every now and then I forget myself. Anyway, that's from the statement. South Korea. National Assembly passes special counsel bill to probe Yoon's alleged election interference. This is from the news agency Yonhap. The opposition controlled National Assembly passed a special counsel bill Thursday to investigate allegations against impeached President Yoon Suk Yeol's influence peddling scandal linked to the parliamentary by-elections in 2022. Um, Yoon is also the president who declared martial law for a whole day in South Korea. So I don't know what's going on there. Clearly, they're having a little bit of tumultuous times. So again, if you're going to Australia or South Korea, be mindful of these kind of situations. Europe, Austria, oh, and that was from Yunhap. Yes, Europe, Austria, Czech Republic, Germany, Hungary, Poland, and Slovakia. Czech farmers lead fresh EU border protests over Ukraine, Latin American trade deals. This is from Politico. Farmers from the countries I just mentioned joined Czech-held demonstrations rejecting Ukraine's effort to ease concerns over cheap imports. Um, Ukraine was known as the breadbasket of Europe. They made significant amounts of wheat and other products in the ground that were then shipped not just to Russia and Europe, but to Africa and to India and lots of other places. They were equivalent to what the US is as far as grain and rice and corn production in the Americas. And with the war, everything is absolutely screwed up. So, and interesting about the late Latin American trade deals, I wasn't aware of that. So that's going to be something we may want to follow. Greece, violent protests in Athens on rail crash anniversary as frustration over system failures boils over. From the Associated Press, protesters hurling Molotov cocktails and smashing paving stones clashed with riot police firing volleys of tear gas and stun grenades in central Athens today as thousands protested and took to the streets of the cities to mark the anniversary. Um, Greece has been having economic troubles for a while now, and the EU tried to bail them out, and they still couldn't get out. Unlike Argentina, that went on a severe austerity, elected a new president, Milei, and now they're seeing the inflation go away. They're seeing the economy spark back up. So things are going the other way there. Greece didn't do it the same way, and they're still struggling. That's from the Associated Press. In Turkey, Öcalan calls for PKK to lay down their weapons. This is from the news agency DW. Imprisoned militant leader Abdallah Öcalan on Thursday announced a call for his Kurdistan Workers' Party, PKK, to dissolve itself. The Kurds in Turkey have had a long standing dispute. The Kurds were also our allies in dealing with the Taliban and situations in Syria. And in Iraq. So it's very convoluted and a very complicated environment there. Um, One person even told me, they said if Israel was not physically there, if they were somewhere else, more than likely they would just, all these little countries would basically fight each other. And this is part of it. I don't know why this leader's calling on the Kurdistan party to dissolve itself, but definitely an interesting development considering Turkey has actually attacked the Kurds in Iraq and in Syria because of the ancient hatred between them. Moving on, Middle East and North Africa and Israel. Israel car ramming attack wounds 13 people at a bus stop. This is from the Arab News. Israeli police said that a Palestinian man rammed the car into a bus stop in the north of the country on Thursday, wounding 13 civilians in an incident they are indeed treating as a terror attack. This is the same methodology used in New Orleans. In New Orleans, though, he used an electric F-150, which was a hell of a lot quieter, so you didn't even hear the thing coming. It just basically, the sound of the tires rolling on pavement as it hit. Again, a very easy and effective way to cause chaos and injury. Again, when you're in those places like Bourbon Street, like Las Vegas Strip, wherever you may be, pay attention to the traffic patterns. If you have to stop and check your phone or take a call, don't walk blindly down the street looking down at your phone. Go to the curb, go to the side, go to the coffee shop, get out of the way of both foot and vehicle traffic. One, you can cause yourself an accident, but two, when situations like this happen, you have a deranged person or an extremist decides to conduct an attack. You don't want to be part of that. That's from Arab News. Lebanon. Lebanon's new government wins confidence vote in parliament. In Reuters, Lebanon's new government won a confidence vote in parliament on Wednesday, following a speech by Prime Minister Salam promising to push for economic and financial reforms and to start negotiations with the International Monetary Fund. This is an ongoing issue for them. Lebanon has been racked by violence since the 80s. You remember the Marines were killed in the barracks in Beirut way back when. Some of my childhood friends were actually Coptic Christians who had been run out of the country with the civil war originally between the Muslims and the Christians. Most of the Christians fled the country, and then basically became between different factions of Islam. Uh, the unfortunate thing is, in order to fly into Syria, you have to hit Lebanon first in a lot of cases. So now people who do have legitimate reasons to go there are going to have to go different directions. South and Central Asia, moving to the next section. India, at least 41 trapped after avalanche in Indian mountain site mountain state. According to Reuters News, at least 41 people remain trapped under snow after an avalanche struck the Indian Himalayan mountain state of Uttarakhand. I absolutely massacred that. I have no idea how to say that word. Uttarakhand, Uttarakhand. Okay, anyway, moving on from Uttarakhand over here. That's from Reuters. Again, know your geology, know your surroundings. You know, we get complacent in preparedness. Sometimes we're like, oh, well, I'm prepped for my home. Then we go visit Aunt Martha somewhere in another state, and they have tornadoes, or they have avalanches, or they have blizzards, and we're not prepared, and something happens there. So again, being, the channel purpose is to prepare not just for the home, but on the road. Something important to think about. Moving on, Western Hemisphere, Bolivia. Evo Morales leaves MAS in a definitive break with Bolivia's ruling party. This is from Agencia de Noticias. In Bolivia, Bolivia's former president Evo Morales presented his formal resignation from the ruling movement towards socialism, MAS in Spanish, party through his lawyers at the Electoral Tribunal. The countries in South America have been going to extremes, some going socialist and some going the other way. So again, if you plan to go to these countries, it's important to understand what the political environment is. You don't want to be caught doing sightseeing things in the middle of the capital and a riot breaks out between the left and the right, or between opposition parties and the incumbent, whoever they may be. So understanding these trends is super important. Haiti, over 1 million displaced by gang violence, according to the United Nations press release. Ongoing gang violence in Haiti has displaced more than 1 million people, nearly a tenth of the population, or 3 times more than last year. Haiti is an absolute hot mess. I know people from Haiti. They're great. They're great people, but the gangs have taken over, and there's no government functionally to speak of. So I truly think if you're going to go to the Caribbean, that is not where you want to go. Even aid workers, social workers are at risk in that country. So unfortunate facts, but it is what it is. Just for your awareness. Moving on, Jamaica. Jamaica's, and this is from Caribbean National Weekly News. Jamaica's police commissioner, Dr. Blake, has delivered a firm response to criticisms from human rights group Jamaican for Justice over the rising number of fatal police shootings, declaring that law enforcement will not back down from criminals. I don't train my forces to lose. That's kind of a hardcore statement, but keep in mind, if they're getting spillover gang violence from Haiti and from Cuba and other places, um, you know, FAFO, I guess what happens. Again, I don't condone unwarranted police violence. So yeah, it's hard to say. I don't know the culture as far as what's going on in the country right now, but again, the police are taking a very hard line, which means there could be an issue with crime and they're trying to crush it down. So be aware when you go to other nations. Mexico to coordinate anti-crime actions with the U.S. according to the ministry and Reuters. Mexico's foreign ministry said on Thursday its top security officials had a cordial, productive meeting with U.S. counterparts in Washington and agreed to take joint actions to fight organized crimes. They're trying to avoid. The U.S. has declared narco-terrorist organization or narco socialists or whatever the hell they are, narco organizations to be terrorist organizations, and as such, that opens up a lot of different levers and doors for what the U.S. can and can't do. And I really think Mexico's trying to avoid something happening here that came through their border, and we're like, well, you know what? This guy just blew up a school or blew up New York or whatever, and he came over the border, so we're going to go there and blow up the cartel in your own country. I honestly think they're trying to avoid having the 3rd Infantry Division in Mexico, which would be bad all the way around. Another one from Mexico, from Insight Crime. In historic move, Mexico extradites 29 top narcos to the U.S. Authorities in Mexico extradited an unprecedented number of infamous drug traffickers wanted in the U.S. in a move that is unlikely to significantly alter the country's criminal landscape, even while it raises questions about the separation of the nations. So, again, Mexico used to be a great place to visit when we lived down close to the border for work. 20 years ago, you could go over the border with just a driver's license to the border towns and go and buy tequila and have a nice dinner and, go shopping and then come back. And, it was normal for Mexicans to come over, and they still do. Americans and Mexicans go back and forth across the border all the time. Unfortunately, a lot of the towns are now very heavily controlled by these various narco groups. And the sad thing was, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, there were, how should I say, a group of families, kind of like the Italian mafia, and there were rules about attacking tourists and messing with the Americans or the Canadians who are coming to visit, because it was bad business, right? You start killing tourists, people get scared, they don't come, the businesses suffer, right? These guys understood that. Unless you were doing something, you were an American and went and did something really stupid, and then the cartels went and grabbed you. Well, that's what you got, right? But now it's gotten to a point that a lot of people are just scared to go to the border, which is unfortunate. It's bad for their economy. It also prevents us from getting access to meds and agricultural products in some cases. There's still a lot of trade, but again, if you're going to go to Mexico, plan out your trips, use a reputable agency. Mexico's a beautiful country. There are a lot of places you can go that are awesome, and there are some you don't want to go because they're not awesome. You go to New York, you want to see Manhattan, great. You don't want to go to where the Bloods and the Crips and the Latin Kings are fighting. That's not a good idea. So understand, do your homework in advance, as I've said before. Ladies and gentlemen, that kind of summarizes this week. Sorry, I dropped my paper on my microphone. That kind of sums up this week's report. By all means, when you listen to these, again, a lot of it may not be relevant to you, but understanding the trends in other countries, again, especially the smaller ones, usually gives us an indication of what's going to happen here at some point. You remember 3 years ago, Sri Lanka and some of these mid sized economies were absolutely getting hurt with inflation, supply chain issues, food availability, scarcity, animals getting sick. And I mentioned that's going to eventually make its way to us. It did, not because I'm clairvoyant, not because I'm some super genius. I'd like to think I'm a pretty smart guy, but I don't know everything. By no means do I know everything, but I do recognize patterns. And if you can start understanding the patterns of the world, I truly feel, just me personally, it informs the way you should be prepping here, because those problems can come here. In any case, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this one. Thank you once again for joining me. You guys be good, be safe, be careful. I will see you all on the next video. And for those of you checking on me, because I've been kind of off the grid lately, thank you. I am good, just busy, lots going on. I'm hoping to take a short vacation the next week or so. And yeah, we're going to bring the dogs and everybody, so it should be a hoot or it'll be a catastrophe, but it'll be fun either way. You guys take care of yourselves out there, and help people out if you can. We need more of that in the world. We'll see you later.